she truly is. He finds it strange that although she physically resembles Giselle Rosevin with blonde hair and blue eyes, she behaves like a completely different person. Reniel considers it a paradox that she doesn't try to act like Giselle Rosevin, but insists that she is still Giselle Rosevin. Reniel acknowledges Giselle's statement with a casual "Sure, Giselle." Giselle feels relief but quickly shifts the conversation, asking if she has proven her usefulness with the chart she created. She emphasizes that her ability to distinguish between different poisons makes her uniquely qualified for the task. Reniel admits that he acknowledges her skills but expresses his lingering suspicion. Giselle reacts with frustration, questioning why he sees her as suspicious when she claims to be harmless. Reniel responds by explaining his trust issues and points out that he recently caught her attempting to run away. Reniel teases Giselle about stealing his money too. Giselle nervously tries to excuse herself, claiming she wasn't running away but just taking a walk, and the money was an advance on her salary. Reniel gives a non-committal response. Giselle, feeling the pressure, slams the table and yells, demanding to know if he wasn't planning to pay her. She expresses frustration, yelling that she worked tirelessly and deserves better treatment, especially since she risks her life tasting poisons. She insists on hazard pay at the very least. Reniel looks at her and chuckles, reflecting on how entertaining her reactions are. He comments that Giselle Rosevin would never behave like this. He muses on why the runes of some dark mages end up becoming chicken coops, finding chicks cute despite their purpose for hexes. Reniel uses his magic, causing Giselle to misunderstand and become scared. She stammers, mentioning that she can live without wages since she's still in training and he provides her with food and lodging. Reniel chuckles at her misunderstanding. Through his magic, Reniel summons butterflies, which surprises Giselle. She gasps in awe, finding them beautiful. Giselle becomes happy and starts playing with the butterflies, asking if they are real. Reniel explains that they are his familiars and informs her that they will be watching her from now on. Excitedly, Giselle asks if the butterflies will be staying with her and if she can talk to them. Reniel reflects that Giselle didn't understand when he said the butterflies would watch her. He explains that they can talk to him. Giselle pouts, feeling left out, and expresses her desire to talk to the butterflies too. However, she quickly becomes happy, admiring the beauty of their wings. Reniel smiles and points out that the red butterfly can poison her, to which Giselle nervously responds that poison doesn't kill her. He then mentions that the white one can paralyze with its stinger. Giselle finds the concept of a butterfly with a stinger interesting. Despite the risks mentioned, Giselle is ultimately happy to have these butterflies around her. Reniel reflects on Giselle. She was really tense just a moment ago, but now she looks pretty excited. He considers that there's more to her abilities, such as her claim to know the fates of important people. Reniel wonders who these important individuals are and what criteria define their significance. He questions why Wayne Ayor is included in that list. Reniel asks Giselle what she knows about Wayne Ayor and why she wants to work for him. Giselle responds that it seems like he's the strongest bad guy. Reniel nods in agreement. Giselle, excited, asks Reniel to tell Big Boss that she thinks he's the strongest person in the world and expresses her gratitude if Reniel could help her get a job with him. Reniel reflects on the term Big Boss and questions why she called him the bad guy. Giselle nervously asks Reniel not to mention that part. Reniel presses further, asking if she truly wants to work for Wayne Ayor. Giselle responds affirmatively, comparing the opportunity to being the tail of a horse rather than the head of a donkey, akin to securing a stable job at a large company. Reniel questions the practicality of Giselle's role as Wayne Ayor's poison taster, given that only she can discern the differences in poison flavors. He wonders aloud how she plans to prevent Wayne from ingesting poison if she's the sole expert with her chart. Giselle confidently asserts that she'll taste everything Wayne Ayor eats, similar to court ladies of old. She realizes Reniel might not understand the reference but brushes it off with a playful smile. Giselle then asks Reniel to arrange a meeting with Wayne Ayor, but he laughs and refuses. Confused and disappointed, Giselle asks why not. Reniel explains that tasting everything Wayne eats would require her to be constantly by his side. Giselle protests, saying she only needs to taste the food when he eats, but Reniel points out that Wayne could have unexpected meals or snacks, meaning she'd have to follow him everywhere and taste everything he consumes. Reniel comments that accompanying Wayne Ayor all day long would be necessary if Giselle were to taste everything he eats. Giselle hesitantly agrees, realizing the commitment it would entail. Reniel explains that this is why he doesn't want to introduce her to Wayne. Confused and disappointed, Giselle starts to protest, but Reniel walks away, suggesting she focus on managing the shop and promising a monthly salary. Giselle becomes happy and excited at the mention of a salary, but Reniel clarifies that it will only happen once she becomes a full-fledged employee, dampening her spirits. Suddenly, Giselle has an idea and approaches Reniel closely, leaving him confused. She stares at him with newfound confidence, prompting Reniel to reflect on her sudden change in attitude. Reniel wonders if Giselle might have another motive, such as acting foolishly to get closer to Wayne Iodor and potentially assassinate him. However, Giselle surprises him with her sudden confidence, loudly stating that they need to negotiate a proper employment contract to avoid future disputes. She insists on discussing the length of her training period and her salary, and she goes to fetch a pen to formalize their agreement. Reniel can't help but laugh at Giselle's unexpected assertiveness, reflecting that whatever she summoned, this decision was one of the best she's made. He finds her highly entertaining and decides that he wants to keep her by his side. Giselle returns with a paper and stands before Reniel, ready to discuss their employment terms. Giselle reflects on how Reniel's familiars watching her meant he appeared even less frequently than before, giving her more free time to take short walks. She expresses happiness about the situation, mentioning that although she's being monitored, she doesn't mind because the butterflies are beautiful and they make her feel more at ease. Giselle sees her walks with the butterflies as a way to prove to Reniel that she has no intentions of running away. Suddenly, a jingling sound announces someone entering the shop. It's Ten, who greets her enthusiastically as Crazy Miss Giselle. Giselle corrects him, stating that she's not just a temp anymore, she's officially in training and prefers to be called Training Giselle. Ten reacts with a thumbs up, teasing her about becoming even crazier in the past few days. Giselle smiles to herself, reflecting that she doesn't care what Ten calls her. She's content because she has signed an official contract. Giselle reflects on the establishment of her training period and the forthcoming official employment status, seeing it as a sign that Reniel no longer intends to hand her over to the guards or subject her to experiments. For her, this contract not only secures her employment but also ensures her survival. It brings her relief and a sense of security, knowing she is now protected under Reniel's agreement. Ten points to a creepy doll in the shop and expresses his intention to purchase it, stating it is cursed. Giselle dismisses his concerns, suggesting he grab the doll himself if he wants it. Ten hesitantly lifts the doll, still fearful of its supposed curse. Giselle reflects on Ten's timid nature despite being an apprentice dark mage. She reassures him that their shop sells items for curses, not cursed items themselves, and proceeds to pack the doll for him. Ten understands and pays for it, leaving with a smile and a thank you. After Ten leaves, Giselle momentarily feels lonely now that the creepy doll Isabelle is gone. However, she quickly remembers the butterflies Reniel summoned to watch her and perks up with happiness. She admires their beauty, finding comfort in their presence. The dark aura emanating from Reniel's fingertips felt distinctly like dark magic, though it had a unique quality compared to the aura he used previously in the jail cell. Back then, he used it to engulf the assassin. This time it seemed to sparkle, giving it a somewhat flashy appearance that might match Reniel's own charismatic demeanor. Just then, another jingle sounded. Giselle, anticipating another customer, begins her usual welcome and greeting when suddenly, a furious man storms toward her and slams his hands on the table, demanding to know if she is the death row convict that Master Reniel took in. Confused and scared, Giselle denies being a convict, but acknowledges that Reniel gave her the job as a cashier. The man, visibly upset, lifts his hand and insists on an answer, expressing his disappointment that he didn't get the job. Giselle is taken aback, shocked to learn there was another candidate for the cashier position. She wonders aloud what makes this place so special that multiple people would vie for the same job. He yells at her, demanding to see Master Reniel. Giselle explains that Reniel is often busy and she rarely sees him herself. She suggests leaving contact information for Reniel, but the man refuses, questioning why he should trust someone he calls a death row convict. Annoyed, Giselle corrects him, preferring to be labeled a fugitive, and asserts she's no longer on death row. Suddenly, Ten arrives back at the shop, asking about the commotion he heard. The angry man clicks his tongue upon seeing Ten and swiftly dashes away, warning Giselle that he'll return. Giselle is left puzzled by the encounter and wonders what just happened. Seated peacefully outside, Giselle reflects on the safety provided by the illusion magic around the shop, allowing her to observe the outside world without fear. She acknowledges that due to the wanted posters of her scattered everywhere, venturing out alone isn't an option. Despite this, she expresses a desire not to remain confined inside the shop all day and hopes to continue her work as a shopkeeper. Contemplating her situation, Giselle realizes that her role as Giselle may no longer be relevant to the unfolding story. As long as she stays within the confines of the shop, she believes she can avoid encountering the main characters or getting involved with the villain Wayne. Reniel had mentioned he wouldn't introduce her to Wayne anyway, further reinforcing her belief that she can remain uninvolved in the larger plot. Giselle considers staying at the shop as her best option. If she encounters another difficult customer, she plans to ask Reniel for another doll like Isabelle to act as a bodyguard by the counter. Suddenly, the butterflies appear in front of her as if they want to communicate something. Giselle is surprised and asks them what they want to say. She excitedly wonders if they are mating. However, both butterflies glare at her with anger, causing Giselle to realize she might have been mistaken. Confused, she questions them, asking if they want her to go back inside. She reassures them that the illusion magic prevents anyone from seeing into the back alley. Out there, a unit of guards is searching for Giselle. Among them is a tall guard who keeps staring at the back alley, unaffected by Reniel's illusion magic that conceals Giselle. Giselle reflects on the guard, noting his imposing stature and speculating if he might be the guard captain. His blonde hair and green eyes shine brightly, reminiscent of a knight in shining armor from the novel Poison Apple, specifically the male protagonist, Dylan Stacy. Suddenly, Giselle realizes with fear that the guard is indeed Dylan Stacy. Panic-stricken, she gasps as she realizes he has spotted her. She grabs a stool and begins dashing back towards the shop, realizing that illusion magic doesn't work on Dylan. His ability to see the true nature of things means that magical tricks won't deceive his eyes. Giselle hurries back to her shop and secures the door with a large chain and a hefty lock. Terrified, she hides behind the table. She whispers anxiously at herself, pondering why Dylan is still present. According to the novel, he should have returned to his territory with the female lead once Giselle was executed. She worries that perhaps the story has changed because she wasn't executed as planned. If she encounters Dylan now, she fears he will immediately turn her in, leading to her execution. In a panicked whisper to the butterflies, she urgently requests them to summon their master. It's an emergency. Just then, she hears the stomping footsteps approaching her shop, sending a shiver of fear down her spine. The loud knock on the door reverberates through the room. After a tense moment, she hears the footsteps recede. She breathes a sigh of relief, muttering to herself that he's gone. Giselle reflects on the possibility that Dylan didn't return to his territory because she didn't die as planned. Could it mean he'll continue to hunt her down until she's gone? She dismisses the thought, convincing herself she's not that important, a mere low-tier villain in the early part of the story. He wouldn't have reason to track her and kill her, or would he? Suddenly, realization hits her hard. In the novel, Giselle had threatened to kill the female lead. Anxiety grips her as she contemplates the implications. She wonders aloud if it truly was Dylan at the door just now, or perhaps just another villainous customer. Hoping she overreacted as she tries to calm her nerves